This is the hurricane corridor. Now, if you overlay a map of every Waffle House location in America, you will find a nearly perfect statistical match. By accident or design, this restaurant chain has built its empire on some of the most geologically unstable land in the Western Hemisphere. They are the most frequently flooded and hurricane-struck corporation in the country. And yet, when the power grid fails and the National Guard is deployed, they are almost always the only lights on in the city. And they use different menu depending upon the scale of a disaster they are in. This anomaly is so consistent that the FEMA has integrated it into their informal disaster response protocols. They call it the Waffle House Index. Yes, it's not a joke. It is a proxy indicator, a tool used by federal administrators to gauge the severity of a disaster. The system works because Waffle House operates as a canary in the coal mine for the supply chain logistics. Green code means the restaurant is serving a full menu. The utility grid is intact. Yellow means the menu is limited. The grid has failed and they are running on backup generators. And red means the restaurant is closed. This signals to FEMA that the area is facing total infrastructure collapse. But the true value of the index isn't just that Waffle House stays open, it is that nobody else opens at that time. When Hurricane Sandy struck the Northeast in 2012, federal planners tried to use other chains like Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts as backup indicators. That experiment failed because those chains closed days before the storm hit, rendering them useless as real-time sensors. Waffle House is the only entity that attempts to ride out the storm. But this raises a critical question for logistics experts. How does a company with no government ties manage to repair its own supply lines faster than the state can repair the roads? What does their storm playbook know that the rest of the industry ignores? And why, even during a Category 4 hurricane, it's not physically impossible to order sausage? While the Storm Center in Georgia monitors the satellite data, the actual logistics are executed at the local level using a manual known as the Storm Playbook. This is not a digital file or a cloud-based app. It is a physical binder kept in every Waffle House restaurant. The company intentionally relies on analog paper because, in a Category 4 hurricane, you cannot count on the internet. The protocol begins roughly 48 to 72 hours before the storm's landfall. Once the location of the restaurant is identified as being in the area of upcoming disaster, the supply chain shifts gears. That specific Waffle House restaurant receives a storm drop, a massive, irregular delivery of shelf-stable food and paper products, effectively turning the diner into its own standalone warehouse. But the most critical preparation happens right before the power guys. The protocol dictates that employees must pre-grind hundreds of pounds of coffee beans while the grid is still active. This is a specific logistical loophole. They can boil water on gas grills to brew the coffee without electricity, but the commercial grinders are electric. If they don't grind the beans before the storm hits, they have thousands of pounds of caffeine they can't access. Then, the moment the power fails, the store officially enters yellow status. This is where the menu changes, and this is where the physics of disaster management gets interesting. First, the waffles disappear. Waffle irons are massive energy consumers that would overload portable generators. Second, the bacon disappears. This isn't about supply at all. It's about the geometry. The yellow menu is designed for maximum calorie output per square inch of the grill space. Bacon strips shrink when cooked and take up too much room. Sausage patties, however, are uniform and stackable. When you are the only restaurant open for 50 miles and have a line of utility workers out the door, grill real estate becomes the most valuable resource in the building. Bacon is inefficient, so bacon is banned. Finally, if the local water pressure drops, which is common during floods, the protocol mandates an immediate switch to disposable plates and utensils. This eliminates the need for dishwashing, allowing the restaurant to remain health code compliant even if the city's sewage system has failed. But even with a perfect menu and a generator, you still need one thing to run a restaurant: people. And usually the people who work there have just lost their homes. In most business continuity plans, labor is the breaking point. You can have a generator and enough sausage to feed a city, but if your employees are currently evacuating their families or dealing with a flooded living room, you cannot open the doors. To solve this, Waffle House corporate headquarters in Norcross, Georgia treats its workforce like a deployable military reserve. They call them jump teams. These are not local employees. They are managers and operators flown in from safe states outside of the storm's path, places like Ohio, Tennessee, and Kentucky. During Hurricane Matthew in 2016, the company deployed over 250 such operators across the Southeast. When a jump team arrives at a stricken location, they don't just add extra hands, they relieve the local staff entirely. This creates a unique economic cycle. By importing labor, Waffle House ensures that the store generates revenue during the peak demand window, the days immediately following the storm, while simultaneously protecting their local workforce from burnout. But why do they do it? Why spend thousands of dollars on travel, generators, and logistics just to sell $5 breakfasts? The answer lies in the economics of resilience. On a spreadsheet, the Waffle House strategy makes absolutely no sense. Flying in managers from Ohio, paying for hotel rooms that don't exist, and burning thousands of gallons of fuel to power a generator is expensive. But Waffle House is not playing a short-term game. They are executing a strategy of total market capture. In the days following a disaster, the local economy undergoes a radical shift. The tourists and office workers disappear. In their place arrives a massive, hungry army: utility crews, National Guard units, insurance adjusters, and tree removal contractors. These are not typical customers. They work 18-hour days, they pay with corporate expense cards, and they need high-calorie fuel. By being the only light on in a dark city, Waffle House accidentally creates a temporary monopoly. They become the unofficial headquarters for the recovery efforts. Sales volume in the weeks following a storm often doubles or triples, offsetting the initial cost of the jump teams. When you serve a hot meal to a family that has been eating MRE for 3 days or give free coffee to the first responders clearing the roads, you are buying something that a Super Bowl commercial cannot provide, which is brand immortality. It's a customer acquisition strategy built on trauma and relief. They're embedding themselves into the cultural infrastructure of the town. They carry extra inventory. They pay for redundant staff. They maintain a bloated supply chain. And in a calm year, that looks inefficient. But in a chaotic year, it looks like genius. The Waffle House Index proves that in a fragile world, resilience is the only metric that actually matters. We live in an economy obsessed with optimization. We strip mine redundancy to maximize profit. We build supply chains that are efficient, fast, and incredibly brittle. We assume the roads will always be open and the power will always be on. Waffle House assumes the opposite. They have built a billion-dollar empire by assuming that the world will end tomorrow, and because they prepare for the worst, they are usually the only ones left standing when it actually happens. So, the next time you see that yellow sign glowing in the middle of a storm, don't just see a place to get hash browns. See it for what it really is: a masterclass in logistics disguised as a diner. Subscribe, and we will see you next time with an even better story than this.